All right. My name is David Loveday. I'm the lead researcher here at Brutastic Analytics. Very pleased to be working with Budweiser and excited about our first report out. We've got a lot to cover, so let's just dive right in. So just as a reminder of the project scope and the deliverables, so Brutastic was engaged by Budweiser to do a study of craft beer and brewery trends across the United States. Along the way, there were 4 explicit questions that we wanted to answer, and then Brutastic did unearth a couple of other additional insights that we'll touch on as well. But first was how many breweries are present in each state. Next was some median and maximum values of ABV and IBU. And then finally, is there an apparent relationship between bitterness and alcoholic content? We do feel like we have a good answer for that question, and we also, along the way, want to preview that our KNN classification scheme, which is actually utilizing these bitterness and ABV pairs to make a predictive judgment on a beer label if it is unknown. So first, talk about data sources and quality control very quickly. We were given 2 different data sets by the client. The first was just a listing of craft beer labels and some relevant data, accompanying data, and then also another database of breweries, which we do have a common field between the 2, so we're able to tie them. Next, Brutastic was able to source some consumption data by state for the year 2020, which was very helpful and helped to really enhance this study. Second, we, as a quality control measure, we evaluated the beer label database that was given to us by the client, and we found that we had over 2,400 rows. Of those, the ABV column was relatively filled out. We did have a couple of nulls in there, but the IBUs, we had over 1,000 nulls on international bitterness units. So the way we address those is that we build a catalog just looking at statistics, the median and mean values for ABV for particular beer styles. And then using medians, we preferred medians. We were able to fill in a lot of those nulls using the medians, but there were some exotic flavors which didn't have statistics where you could build medians, so we used means next, and then if we couldn't, there were some very, very exotic beer styles that just had single entries, and those were completely removed from the study moving forward. So first step was we just looked at total consumption by state, gross consumption versus the total population, gross population of the state, and what we found is that no surprise here, but the more densely populated states tended to drink more beer, and so it led us down the path that we needed to look at things moving forward more on a per capita basis. So second, we're looking now here, this is the heat map on the top is showing the per capita consumption in gallons, right, and then the associated histogram just below it. So it's interesting that we do see that the Northwest tends to drink more beer per capita than the rest of the country, though there are a couple outliers, especially the state of New Hampshire loves their beer per capita. Next, we're looking at just total. Now, this is gross brewery count per state. Interesting, of course, the more densely populated states tend to have more breweries, so the state of Colorado really does stand out. The state of Colorado tends to be an epicenter of craft brewing in the United States. So next, we're just looking at brewery count per capita. Again, the trend seems to cluster around the Northwest. They have more breweries than many other regions of the country, though Alaska also stands out too. So one interesting observation, the plot in the upper left there, which is just the x-axis, total gallons consumed versus brewery count, we see that there are some densely populated states which don't seem to have, as many breweries as their more densely populated kind of peers. And we think this may be something that deserves further exploration or may be a potential business opportunity. These are very high-consuming states that just aren't serviced by a lot of domestic production. So there may be an opportunity, as part of this, local, brew local movement that there may be a business opportunity here. Next, we're going to blast through a couple of, this is a catalog of statistics which was requested by the client. So here we're looking at top 10 median ABVs by state. And then also note that all of these histograms, we're just focused on top 10, but if you go down the appendix, we have all 50 states, including D.C., so you can see the full data sets in the appendix. So median ABV, median IBU, max ABV, max IBU by state. We also spent some time looking at the most popular beer styles, just seeing what these are all density plots here. Just looking at where do the peaks of these data for the different, the top 10 most popular beer styles, how do they plot? So most tend to cluster around, 5%. But then we do have two popular beer styles which have much higher alcohol contents. Next, we're just looking now at the top 5 producing states. We're looking at just American IPAs, which was by far the most popular beer style that's produced at these craft breweries. Interesting, their peaks do all tend to cluster together, but we do get some other peaks, local maximas, that hint at maybe bimodal distributions. You can see it more when we break them down independently. Bimodal, maybe even trimodal. So these may represent kind of sub-flavors within the general American IPA flavors. So finally, we're asked to look at ABV versus IBU. Is there a relationship visually? So now here we're looking at all the data provided and then plotting up, and there does appear to be a positive relationship between ABV and IBU. So the more alcohol tends to be more bitter. Now, each of these points is colored by beer style. I do want to point out there is some artifacting from, this is part of our null, synthetic null filling in scheme that we discussed earlier. So there is this striping in here, which is an artifact and overprint from that scheme. I pointed at it with the blue arrows. So when we break these plots down by the different beer styles. So now you can see the corresponding colors. We do find that there are some particular flavors that have a very strong trend, while there are some others that are flat, so maybe no trend, to just a very minor one. So it is interesting. So to answer your question, yes and no. There does appear to be, for some styles, there's a very strong relationship. For others, there's not. Finally, just to tease and preview our K&N classification model, we were asked to look, for just focus now on ales. So this is IPAs versus other ales. This is kind of the two groups we split these up into. Given an ABV and IBU pair, can we get a pretty confident prediction of what kind of beer? Is that an IPA or is it another kind of ale? So yes, there does visually appear to be some clustering. So we wanted to explore this further with some K&N classification. So we did a sensitivity just looking at a range of Ks, went from about 1 to 300. We found that our peak accuracy also corresponded sort of with some of our maximum sensitivities, and then, we were happy with the specificity as well. And that focused or centered at K equals 34, which coincidentally enough happened to be the square root of N, also the square root of our total number of samples. So going forward, we're going to use a K of 34. And so, we won't get too much into the details here, but very open to getting into that later if there's interest. But we built, just a regular spaced grid of ABU and IBV pairs, and then ran each individual gray dot then through our K&N classification scheme to deliver these probability heat maps. So the map on the left is the probability that's an IPA, and then the plot on the right is a probability of others. So if this is just a very quick reference tool we think the client will find very helpful, where if you have just a given pair, you can go and plot it up here on these heat maps and say, oh, look, we have an IBU of 100 with an ABV of 0.75. Well, look at that. We plot in the greater than 75% probability range that this is an IPA. So this is still being developed, and certainly excited to get deeper into this and really work with the client to fine-tune these. But this is a preview of the deliverable that they can expect here shortly. So finally, again, we just have built out a full appendix of all of our different, so these are histograms now, including all 50 states. Before, you just got the top 10s. So thank you for your time.